Your therapist probably uses a technique called cognitive behavioral therapy. It's the gold standard of modern psychology, backed by thousands of clinical trials. It treats depression, anxiety, PTSD, phobias, and dozens of other conditions. What they might not tell you is that a former Greek slave invented the exact same framework 20 centuries ago. And he did it without a lab, a degree, or a single clinical trial. To see the connection, you first need to understand how CBT actually works. At its core, the framework is built on a model called ABC. A is the activating event. Something happens. You get passed over for a promotion. Your partner says something hurtful. You receive unexpected bad news. B is your belief about the event. This is the story your mind constructs. I got passed over because I'm not good enough. She said that because she doesn't respect me. This bad news means my life is falling apart. Notice that the belief isn't the event. It's your interpretation of the event. And it's this interpretation, not the event itself, that produces CC as the consequence. The emotional and behavioral response, depression, anxiety, withdrawal, rage. The central insight of CBT is that most people blame A for C. They think the event caused the emotion. But the event didn't cause anything. B caused it. The belief, the interpretation. The story you told yourself in the milliseconds between what happened and how you felt about it. The entire practice of CBT is built around identifying B, questioning whether B is accurate, and replacing distorted beliefs with more realistic ones. When you change B, C changes automatically. New belief, new emotional response. Same event, different experience. Now here's where it gets remarkable. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of things. That sentence is the ABC model. Exactly. A is things, events, what happens. B is the views which they take, beliefs, interpretations. C is disturbed, the emotional consequence. The structure is identical. The only difference is the century. In the Discourses, Epictetus expands this into a complete therapeutic framework. He tells his students, when you feel anger, don't look at the person who provoked you. Look at the judgment you made about their behavior. When you feel grief, don't blame the loss. Examine the belief that you were entitled to keep what you lost. When you feel anxiety, don't focus on the future. Focus on the story you're telling yourself about a future that hasn't happened yet. Every negative emotion, Epictetus taught, is the product of a judgment, and every judgment can be examined, questioned, and revised, not suppressed, not ignored, examined. The emotion is real, the pain is real, but the belief that generated the emotion is not a fact. It's an interpretation, and interpretations can be wrong. This is not a rough parallel. This is the identical cognitive architecture that CBT uses today. Event, interpretation, emotional response. Change the interpretation, change the response. This isn't a case of independent invention where two traditions happen to arrive at similar conclusions. And they said so publicly. Albert Ellis developed rational emotive behavior therapy in the 1950s, the direct precursor to modern CBT. In his own writings, Ellis explicitly named Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius as his primary philosophical influences. He described his approach as applied Stoicism. Beck, who developed cognitive therapy in the 1960s, the framework that became the standard known as CBT, told a similar story. Beck was treating patients with depression when he noticed their suffering wasn't caused by their circumstances. It was caused by systematic distortions in their thinking. They catastrophized. They overgeneralized. They personalized events that had nothing to do with them. And when Beck helped them correct these distortions, the depression lifted. He recognized that what he was doing in clinical settings was precisely what Epictetus had been teaching in an open courtyard in Greece. The path from Nicopolis to the modern therapy office is not metaphorical. It's documented. Ellis and Beck built the most successful psychological intervention in modern history on a framework a former slave articulated while teaching from a wooden chair in a modest school 2,000 years ago. Let's make the parallels concrete. Because the overlap isn't limited to the core model, the actual exercises are nearly identical. In CBT, you're given thought records. When something upsets you, write down the event, the automatic thought, the emotion, and then challenge the thought with evidence. Is this thought accurate? What's the evidence for it? What's the evidence against it? What would a more balanced thought look like? We explored this in video 10 as the 3-column exercise: event, judgment, alternative judgment. Epictetus taught the same process. When a student came to him upset, he asked, "What happened?" Then, "What did you tell yourself about what happened?" Then, "Is that the only possible interpretation? The structure is identical, the language is different, the clipboard is missing, but the cognitive operation is the same." In CBT, you practice behavioral experiments. You test your beliefs against reality by deliberately acting against them. If you believe no one likes you, you start a conversation with a stranger and observe what happens. Epictetus assigned identical exercises. He told students to respond to insults without anger, attend social events without seeking approval, endure discomfort without complaint. Each exercise exposed the gap between belief and reality. CBT uses cognitive restructuring. And his prescription was the same: test them. Don't accept any impression without first asking whether it belongs to the category of things up to you or things not up to you. The modern therapist and the ancient philosopher are using different vocabularies to describe the same mental operation. One charges by the hour. The other is free online and has been for 2,000 years. So if the tools are the same, why does it matter that they're ancient? For one reason above all others: accessibility. Therapy is expensive. In much of the world, it's unavailable entirely. Waiting lists are months long. Millions of people who need help with their thinking patterns cannot access the clinical version of these tools, but the Stoic version is free. The Enchiridion is available online in dozens of translations. The Discourses are in the public domain. The entire framework that CBT was built on can be read, studied, and practiced by anyone with an internet connection. This is not a replacement for professional therapy. If you're dealing with clinical depression, trauma, or a condition that requires medical attention, please seek professional help. But for the millions of people who are struggling with everyday anxiety, overthinking, anger, and emotional reactivity, the Stoic texts offer a remarkably effective set of tools that have been tested not by decades of clinical trials, but by centuries of human beings in crisis. Epictetus taught in an open courtyard. Anyone could attend, rich or poor, free or enslaved. That original intention still holds. The most effective cognitive framework in psychology is available to anyone willing to read 50 pages and practice what they learn. Here's your challenge. This week, use the ABC model 3 times. When something upsets you, pull out your phone or a piece of paper and write 3 things. A. What actually happened? Just the facts. B. What you told yourself about it. The automatic thought. The story. C. How you felt as a result. Then challenge B. Ask, is this thought true? What evidence supports it? What evidence contradicts it? What would Epictetus say about this interpretation? Do this 3 times in 1 week. By the 3rd time, you'll start catching the beliefs in real time before they produce the emotional consequence. And in that catching is the same freedom Epictetus found in chains. The freedom to choose your interpretation instead of being chosen by it. The most successful psychological intervention in modern history was built on the ideas of a man who was born a slave and never wrote a single word. 2,000 years later, his framework is still the gold standard, not because someone marketed it, because it works. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of things. If this changed how you think about your own mind, subscribe for more ancient wisdom that still works today. Drop a comment telling me whether you've tried CBT and how it compares to reading Epictetus directly. I read every single one,